Lydia Wild's daughter. And so Grandma and Grandpa Kazarian were my grandparents. And so I'm the second oldest of all the grandkids. And so I remember things that my younger cousins don't remember. But, okay, this was given to me before Grandma died. Great-grandma, before my grandmother died. This was her mother. So this is Rebecca Sharanian's. This came from Armenia. And it had 6 cups with it. And Grandma said this is the only one that survived. And then these also came from Zara. And my grandmother gave me these before she died also. These are buttons that are from a little baby's little jacket. Some of them are made from amber, some of them are made from bone. If you want to pass those around. But my grandmother wrote this on, so this is Arak Kazarian. She wrote this, and if any of you know her handwriting, if you have anything of her handwriting, you'll recognize that. And it says, these beads are 75 years old. And this was when, she must have been at least 75 at that. So at that time, these were about 150 years old. So these beads are 75 years old. We brought them from Zara in 1902, but I had them long before that. And they are relics, R-E-L-E-C-K-S. So
are these like treasures she found as a child?
No, she said that these were buttons that ancestors had put on little babies' christening coats and very special little occasions, and they would be passed down from mother to daughter. And then I'll put this in just a minute. Okay, then Claire just told me that these are etchings that were given to Grandma and Grandpa Kazarian at the time that they were married. So these were done in 1890. And so if you want to look at those, and these are from Trina. She said that Grandma used to put olives in those, and she doesn't remember about that.
It was at their house, the basket. Yeah, it was at their house.
Yeah.
But she has kept it, and it was her favorite thing that she remembers from their house.
And then, these books, this is Nephi's book. All of these books Kathleen has put on Family Search. So you have this book. Uncle Heron must have printed, 5,000 of these, because you can still go to Deseret Industries and see those on occasion and buy them for just a couple of dollars each. This book is a book that was I bought lots of these. The first because this fellow, my brother's in it because my brother went on a mission to Armenia, and so is Uncle Reed is in here because Robert went on a mission to Lebanon. Reed went on a mission to Lebanon, and so this book, my husband was supposed to have given a talk because we lived in China for 6 years, and so Jim was asked to give a talk about the church in China at UVU one time. Well, he was in a foreign country, Pakistan. He couldn't get back, so I ended up giving the talk, and they couldn't, when you have a dignitary come and speak, they'll introduce them as, oh, he has done this, she has done that. I was a housewife. There was nothing that they could say about me, except the guy who had written this was introducing me. And so he brought this book, and he said, look at for heaven's sakes, it says the first words in his book are Nishan Sharanian. And he said the reason that it's so important is because Nishan Sharanian was the first Armenian to join the church. It wasn't exactly right because but close enough. And he was the one who stayed faithful and came to America. And then so there are more books over here. These, my brother Robert and his wife were given the temple clothing of Arik, Khazarian, and of course you don't keep the clothes, you know, the robes and everything. Those were destroyed. But these, Grandma made these for, these are her temple booties. And it was so fun for me that Kathleen owns the pair that Grandma made for Grandpa. So these two things survived. And you look at these and they're just charming. They have these little things. And does anybody remember ever seeing Grandma, men, disregard this, in her garments? Grandma in her garments were up to her neck, down to her wrists, down to her ankles, and there was a ruffle at everything. That's where garments were at that time. And so, and of course, those you did buy, but isn't that charming? Anyway, this is Grandpa's shoe pattern. When I was, I'm the second oldest of the granddaughters, of the grandchildren. Valerie is the oldest. And so we were, at least I was taken with Grandma Arik up to Salt Lake on a trolley. How long ago was that, you know? And the trolley went up to Salt Lake. We went to ZCMI, and Grandma, you go into the basement there, and Grandma haggled for leather, pieces of leather. And you had to have two matching pieces that were thick enough, but some of them were a little darker color, some of them were natural, and Grandma haggled to get just the right thing, you know, at the cheapest price, so Grandpa could make shoes. This is what Grandma would grind her meat with. And when my mom said, "Does anybody want this?" and I thought, of course, you know, what a priceless thing. Probably nobody else remembers what these are for. And then Grandma would use this for grinding the onion for her dolma. And so, and then my brother, this side, evidently there are a couple of these in the family. This is from Kathleen, and this is my brother Robert's. This is her butter churn. I've got several different things. And this is my Book of Mormon, the great-grandpa, Sharanian, translated. And this is my nephew's copy. And, you know, when we were buying these before, you could get them for a couple $100. Now, they don't even come up. So if anybody ever sees an Armenian and a Book of Mormon and they don't want it, call me. I'd love to purchase it. And like this, but you know, it's unlike Uncle Heron's book. There were only 500 of these printed, and so they're very hard to get. And then, okay, this is, okay, everybody has seen these little buttons. Okay, I'm gonna put that back in here with this. Okay, the real reason, when I was a little girl, Grandma said that there were 5 Armenian rugs that came over, that were sent. The first one was sent ahead, and it was almost, you guys want to get chairs and just pull a chair around, get comfortable? So she said that the first one, if you've ever, how many of you have seen the one that's in the church history? Raise your hand if you've seen it. Okay, these are these colors right here and here are the Sharanian colors. These are Sharanian color rugs. The one in Salt Lake is very garish. And so when I saw that, I remembered my grandmother saying that she had been influenced to use colors that Westerners would like. So because it was not intended to be in the temple, it was intended to be sold to provide funds for the family to come over from Armenia. And it was sent ahead of time. When it got here and nobody wanted to buy that rug, it was donated as tithing in kind to the church, and it ended up being used in the temple for a while. And my understanding is that in 1966, when the temple was refurbished, David and McKay rolled it up, put it in his closet. Nobody thought about it again. It survived because everything that you take out of a temple is supposed to be destroyed so that people don't bid on it and whatever. And so that made it through there. It's now in the Family History Center, so museum. And so my grandmother said of those 5 rugs, that was the first one, the one that was sent over first. The second one was bartered for a Singer sewing machine for Rebecca. I have that sewing machine, so sort of have that still in the family. And then the third one was for a down payment on the barber shop that was on the corner. And for those of you who don't know where things were, if you see Hanover Street, here's Hanover Street. Grandma and Grandpa Kazarian were on the east side of the street. On the west side of the street and a little bit to the south, that was Grandma and Grandpa Sharanian's house. Then there was an alley, and then there were 3 small buildings there. The one on the corner was the barber shop. The one next door is that picture right over there on that very corner. That was a little grocery store that Grandma and Grandpa owned. And then the third was a little shotgun house. Does anybody know what a shotgun house is? Okay, you open the front door, you got it. You open the front door, there's a living room, then there's a bedroom, then there's a kitchen. You open the door that goes to each of those rooms, there's a door that goes to the outside, and somebody could shoot a gun right through and go from front to back. It was called a shotgun house. And so that was the third little house. But that third rug was at the down payment for the barber shop on the corner. Then so that's 1, 2, 3. The fourth one is the small one that Uncle Heron was given. When I was growing up, we lived close to Uncle Heron, and so we would see this rug, and it was at the top of the stairs, hanging over the banister. Judd, you would have remembered that. Okay, and so, but it was a small rug. It was, it is small. It's
I don't know, it's bigger than you think.
It's about
probably 6 foot by 3 foot.
Yeah, it's
smaller
small.
than that. Yeah, it's like.
And so that was the fourth one. And then when Grandma and Grandpa died, my Uncle Nephi and Uncle David, my mother didn't come up for the separating of stuff. And so Uncle David and Uncle Nephi sent her the hutch, with the glass, that rounded glass, and they wrapped it with this as stuffing to wrap it to keep it safe. And so then my mother, when she got this, she thought, who would send me a piece of junk like that, but then my husband was in law school. We didn't have any money, and my mother thought, their apartment could use a little brightening up. She brought this up to us, and we didn't, it wasn't even nice enough for us to use on the floor, frankly, and so I rolled it up because I valued it as something that had belonged to my grandparents. And then about 20 years later, I get a call from Aunt Irene. Okay, so there was my grandmother was born in the old country in Zara. And then when they came to this country, 4 more daughters were born. You have Lorraine, Irene, Rosa, and Rhoda. And Rosa and who's the other one? Okay, it'll come to me. Yeah, the opera singer. What's the opera singer's name? Yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, she'll hate me for not remembering her name. And anyway, so Irene called me and she said, Kim, do you have the 5th Armenian rug? And I said, no. And she said, I think you do. I've talked to your mother. And she said, would you go look at that? And I said, I have not unrolled it since I got it. It had been rolled up for 25 years. And this is only the 2nd time I've unrolled it, by the way. And so, she said, is there a hole in it? And I said, yes, there is. And she said, then that is Rebecca's rug. And she said, and I want it. And I said, wait a minute. I've owned this thing for 25 years. And she said, well, it belongs with the daughters. And so I called my mother and I said, Mother, what do I do about this? And my mother says, I'm the oldest daughter of the oldest daughter. It belongs to me. Now it belongs to you. And so I called Aunt Irene, and I told her that, and she said, okay, well, if you're going to keep that, I want you to help me make a cookbook. And so I helped her make the cookbook instead, because she was not computer literate. So anyway, but that is how we found out that was actually the 5th Armenian rug. And then Craig was saying there was a 6th one, and I said, no, I've heard this story 100 times from my grandmother. There were 5 Armenian rugs. And then he showed me this picture. The colors are all the same. This is a Shiranian rug. This is an Armenian Shiranian rug. And then he says, well, look at the date. And it was made in 1909. They came over in 1902. And see the date on that one? That's 1902. And that came over right before, they had.
And that one actually, if you turn the page, that rug, there's a blow-up of it. It says Shirinian in the rug. She wove Shirinian into the rug.
Who has
Yes.
that rug?
And see,
Laura
that's what.
Jensen Burkhardt.
Okay, Lori has it.
Jensen Burkhardt.
Yeah.
That's Rebecca made it.
And so if you look at this though, we had a Turkish man come and look at this rug because we wanted it conserved when we were living in Plano, Texas. And there was an Armenian rug dealer there. And he said that is what that says. It says the date, and then in Armenian it says the Turkish equivalent of the name of the families, which was Shiranian. And I
don't want to interrupt, but
yeah. I want you to interrupt. I
when
want you
you're
to tell
when
me
you're
all the-
finished with the rugs, I want to add a little, if you don't mind, adding a little bit of information to the temple rug.
Absolutely. Say it now.
Well, so we've heard about the rug forever and ever in our family, and nobody had ever seen it. Grandpa Shiranian had said he saw it in around 1970 or in that area, but then nobody had seen it. It disappeared. Like you said, it disappeared, went in the closet, and nobody knew what closet or where it was or anything. And we all said, wouldn't it be nice to see that rug sometime? And so every so often, like my mom wrote a letter to President Monson and or somebody else, and eventually a letter that she wrote again got to President Monson. He said, oh, let's find that rug. And so he sent out the forces, and someone knew immediately where that rug was in the closet and said, oh, I know where that is. And they brought it out, and that's how it was rediscovered. It could still be in the closet somewhere.
Yeah, well, you all realize that stuff that is taken out of the temple is destroyed, right? Okay, I was, when the Houston temple was flooded, I was given the responsibility, everything had to be destroyed that was taken out of there, but they gave me 4 panels of etched glass that had been in the endowment room. And it was supposed to be made, I was supposed to make gifts for the, Elder Ballard, Bednar, Rasband, and Renlund, the 4 who came to rededicate that temple. Turned out that glass is tempered glass. It could not be cut to do what we wanted to do. So I took it back to the temple president and I said, I'm returning this. And he says, you do realize that if you bring this back, it'll be destroyed. And I said, does that mean I get to keep this glass? And he says, I repeat, Sister Higbee, if you bring this glass back, it will be destroyed. And I said, then I'm getting in my car and I'm leaving with the glass. And he says, goodbye, Sister Higbee. And then I was asked to give the opening prayer in the Celestial Room just before Elder Ballard gave the rededication of the temple. And so I'm feeling guilty about this, that nobody has said I can keep this glass. And so then I'm sitting next to Elder Ballard, and Elder Ballard says, I know you're worried about giving the prayer for this dedication, but it'll be given to you by revelation. And so I said, that's not what's worrying me. The thing is, I've got 4 pieces of this glass, and I said, it came from the temple. It was intended to be for the general authority and cut, but it couldn't be. It's in my car still. And I said, do I have the right to keep it? It's supposed to be destroyed. And he said, Sister Higbee, I would love to see that in your home. And I said, does that mean I get to keep it? He
Oh my
said,
gosh, yes.
Sister Higbee, I would love to see that in your home. They did not say that I could keep it, but those are now in a fireplace up above the mantle in my home. And I thought, it came to me, what a miracle that rug did not get destroyed. I mean, it's just unheard of, apart from what I just told you. It really is quite unusual for that to ever happen. And so, now does anybody else have anything that they would like to, stories about anything that they have received? Yes,
Well,
Judd?
if anybody
Now,
wants
does
to see
everybody
them-
know that Judd is, okay, there's there's great-grandfather Nishan, Nishan, and then there's his first son, Nishan, this is his son, Judd. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, if anybody wants to see the temple rug, you can see it. You have to make a special appointment. It's my understanding, and you go to the Church History Museum, and Emily at UTT is over that, in charge of that. She might even be the director of the Church History Museum. But anyway, it's possible to see it. It's really impressive. And Emily told me that they are working towards having a special display made for that rug to put in the conference center.
And you know why?
Because it's the wonderful video that they did.
I know.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
When I asked about that, they said, you know, the John Taylor watch that has the bullet that
Yeah.
stopped at the certain time of the martyrdom of the prophet. The second is somebody's sword. I don't know whose sword. The third most requested thing is that Armenian rug. And so there's enough interest in it that, people are interested in seeing that rug. Okay, is
And
there
the temple rug we talk about is the rug with the temple
On
on
it,
it. But that is different than the temple
Yes.
rug you're talking about, which was in the temple. So
That's
And
right.
it was
There's two
in the,
different
it was in the council room where the 12 apostles and the first presidency meet weekly.
Yes.
And my understanding is the fringe got destroyed, and that was one of the reasons that they put it in storage, because they thought they'd eventually get the fringe fixed. But it's still in the state of needing to be repaired.
Yeah, and the fact that it wasn't burned, destroyed,
Yeah.
is just quite a miracle. Anybody else have anything that they would like to ask questions about or tell about things that you have in your home that are artifacts
she
from?
didn't. Can we talk about the chair? 'Cause
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, Craig, tell about the chair.
Well, this came down through my grandfather, Heron, who was Nishan's first son. My dad is Richard, who is Heron's son, and that chair's been passed down. It was Nishan Sharinian who made that chair, and his wife Rebecca made the covering for it. And there's a date on the top of the back of the covering. It says 1902 on the back, and I think there are some Armenian letters, and maybe we could have you tell us what those Armenian letters say on that back of that chair. Probably initials. I think they're initials.
The same letters that are on this. You see how those I just noticed that. Those are the same letters that are on here.
Well, there's initials on this rug also, which an Armenian person who visited our home told us it was NKS.
Yes, yeah,
In Armenian.
yeah.
So and we had it in our family for a long time before we knew it said NKS.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's in Armenian letters.
Could I ask you not to stand on the carpet?
Yeah, the
I'm
rug.
sorry.
Like I said, I've only had that.
Get on the back
twice. This is the second time I've ever had it out. But if anybody knows of a restorer, a reputable restorer, you do?
No, I'm not. I mean, I know how delicate they are. And
Yeah.
by the way, I have a cousin who lives in Dallas and does dry cleaning.
Oh, yeah,
And
there's a
not
guy.
the same though.
There's a guy in
For
Salt
in-
Lake, and
for-
I've taken it to him, and he has this huge driveway that goes down like this. He said he wouldn't touch this.
No, this one you cannot because it will be ripped up.
Right. And so, but he said this can be restored, but he says he doesn't know if we should try to get it restored.
By the way,
Just frame it in glass.
the Sharinian family still exists in Istanbul.
It's like a
Does
museum.
Haimet in Armenian.
Yeah.
I have one.
Oh,
Yeah,
neat.
you know, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
How do you preserve
yeah,
They sell it pretty expensive all over the world.
yeah,
Beer.
yeah.
It has Jaime. You know what Jaime is?
No. Oh, yeah,
It's the Father's Prayer, Father,
yeah.
like we know the Lord's Prayer, sorry, the Lord's Prayer.
And it's a
I
rug,
mean-
it's woven as a rug? or
It's
is it carved?
the letters in Armenian of the Lord's Prayer in Armenian.
I understand.
Yeah. Well, anyway, if there's anything, does anybody else have any other treasures that they would like to tell about that they've had?
It's not a.
And if not, then I guess we're gonna go on to the next, you guys are gonna rotate to the next class. So,
We just want to take pictures of